The first session at the Cost of Living Crisis conference was called A Great Divide. And it focused on the fact that ethnic minority groups are disproportionately affected by the challenges that we are all facing. And this is nothing new, with Brexit believed to have had a greater impact on minority groups. COVID had a greater impact on ethnic minority groups. The murder of George Floyd highlighted the impact on those groups. And it even impacted minority groups who were seeking to leave Ukraine. They just found it more difficult. And it was suggested in the session that there are at least 3 reasons why this is happening. Firstly, so many decisions are made for the majority with no consideration for those in minority groups. Secondly, the breakdown of families and the inability of communities to help themselves perpetuates. If you're struggling with poverty, it's difficult or impossible to help others who are also struggling with poverty. And thirdly, underneath minority families is not a safety net, but a black hole through which so many of them fall. And we've got used to it. How should the church, how should believers respond to this in a different way? One of the passages we kept coming back to throughout the day was 2 Chronicles 7. It speaks about the dedication of the temple and how God appeared to Solomon and spoke to him. And we saw that the call to humble ourselves, to pray, to seek God, to turn away from wicked ways, was to result in God hearing, God healing, and God being attentive to his people. In that passage, God speaks of his power to heal, his posture of listening, his presence among them. And these are still true and important for us today. 3 points were drawn from the passage. God reminds them of who they are, my people, called by my name, a particular group of people, his people. We are his. He dwells among us, and through the church shows the world what he is like. Secondly, there's a need for faith. Humble yourselves, seek his face, pray, turn away from wickedness, expect God to hear and to act. Faith is about believing God is who he says he is, believing his word, believing he's able to do more than we can ask or imagine. And thirdly, transformation is God's work, not ours. God will hear, God will forgive, God will heal. But thinking about those 3 aspects that God speaks about, power. Some of us have power of different sorts to help, and sometimes we need to get near enough to the problem to see what needs to be done and how we can help. Posture. Just as God has a posture of listening, so should we be open and attentive and listening to people. Presence. We need to be present among those who are in need, particularly when working with minority groups. Have we got close enough to understand the need, or do we just assume we know? And then there is prayer. The need can seem overwhelming, and we as church don't just respond on the basis of the need we see around us. Rather, we are called to respond to God, and as we do so, we engage with the needs of people.